EAIC mencipta Aspire P3 Ultrabook yang berkuasa dan ringan dengan menggunakan Intel Inside supaya kita dapat menerokai hidup selain daripada kehidupan harian.
It's my destiny!
The new Acer Aspire P3 Ultrabook, inspired by Intel.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson, Saudara-saudari, members of civil society, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation for given an opportunity to explain to civil society the issues that we are faced in respect of death in police custody. The authorities used to say, stop criticizing. You want to criticize, you give constructive criticism. Yes, I agree with the authorities. And my coming here tonight is also about giving constructive criticism. Nowadays, I think we should ask a question. If I were to be arrested by the police, can I guarantee getting out alive? I cannot guarantee myself because death in police custody is exponentially on the rise. Reported in the Star of 9 June, there's 221 deaths in custody since 2000. I do not have to elaborate on this. The figures are all over the place. And the causes, as reported in the media, can range from anything to water in the lungs, sudden death, heart attack, trip over, fell and died, and many others. I leave it to the best part of your judgment to determine what is behind all these causes. And many a times, inquests which are not carried out in most custodial deaths comes out with open verdict. Meaning to say, it is a legal jargon here, but I need to explain a bit. Meaning to say, there's a truth out there, but nobody can say what is it. Is it possible that one day we will find out the truth? Added to this are the unreported cases, which means if the totality of custodial dead bodies are buried side by side, it is enough to constitute a sizable graveyard. But still the fact remains, it is a custodial death. We all die one day, we know it, but how and why are the issues that are important. And custodial death are important issues because it is a heinous crime. All we know is the police force is under command of the Inspector General of Police, who is responsible for the control and direction of the police force and all the persons appointed or engaged for police duties. All we know is that the Chief Police Officer of each state is vested with the general charge and administration of lockups in their respective states, and the control of police officers in charge of or attached to such lockups pursuant to the Lockup Rules 1953. That's all we know. So what then is the best mechanism to prevent and deal with death in police custody? In answering this question, I shall, for the next 15 minutes or so, I think it's less now, I will defend the proposition that the IPCMC is the best and most effective mechanism in principle. I shall also defend the strong probability of the IPCMC succeeding in practice as well, so that I will not be accused of just shooting off my mouth. In contrast, I shall prove why the EAIC Enforcement Agency Integrity Committee would fail in principle. In the meantime, I have something pretty strong to say about the probability of its success as it stands in practice. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me get cracking. Introduced by the Royal Commission to enhance the operation and management of the Royal Malaysia Police Force, as recommendation 12 is the IPCMC. Its philosophy, premised upon the fact that police culture is often inward-looking and closed, and mindsets are usually resistant to change. The establishment of an external oversight agency for the PDRM would be a profoundly important development in the governance of this important organization. There goes the philosophy. It is ideally sound in principle, which I am going to argue now, is because it addresses 3 prongs of requirement that it is both preventive and innovative in the level of quality policing in the country. And these are independence. IPCMC established pursuant to an Act of Parliament and answerable to Parliament. It does not supersede but complements other enforcement agencies. Briefly, I need to explain this point. You are independent and you explain to 222 parliamentarians. Why? Because the probability of these people messing around is very low. You can't have 222 MPs playing the fool. So you don't account to one person, to your head of department, head of organization, whatsoever. So the risk area will be very narrow now. It is an external oversight mechanism. It receives and investigate complaints about PDRM and its personnel, prevent, detect and investigate corruptions and other serious misconduct in PDRM, propose measures to the Home Minister to improve police integrity, reduce misconduct and build public confidence in PDRM. That's an external oversight mechanism. Now, we all ideally like to think that the best behavior would be something when nobody is watching you. That would be the best test of your behavior. But unfortunately, you can't behave. So somebody has to watch over you. Okay? Therefore, you need an external oversight mechanism. And most important of all, may I stress at this moment, is the enforcement element, the principle. IPCMC may, after having decided that a police officer is guilty of misconduct or other offences defined in the IPCMC Act, order such actions as they deem fit to be taken against, including caution and discharge of the police officer, suspension of allowances and increments, reduction in rank, fine or dismissal of the police officer. The decision of IPCMC is final and unappealable. Now, originally when it was first mooted in this fashion, final and unappealable, we have to understand the strength of this point. Unappealable implies a situation or context where it is so bad, the problem is so bad, that something drastic got to happen. And this would explain away why it is not necessary even to consider the point raised by the police that there's no appeal mechanism. And it is just like telling people, tomorrow the sun will rise in the east and sets in the west. Now, those are areas in criminal law. Now, if you are being charged for a criminal offense, that is under the jurisdiction of the Attorney General. Now, when it comes to misconduct, now these are the steps that the IPCMC can take. Of course, if you are charged with murder, manslaughter, so on and so forth, within the force, the IPCMC will refer you to the Attorney General. You will not overlap his functions and duties. So this is why we have got to explain this point on appeal procedure, and people should get it right. The probability of success of the IPCMC is supported by the fact that the mechanism is both preventive, transparent, quality improving, it can arrest the number of deaths. We don't have to see all this flying around and all that. The probability is very strong. Of course, we admit that people die, but we can definitely see a drastic reduction of the figure because it holds the police officer to a higher standards of accountability. Now, in contrast, let me bring you to the EAIC, the present mechanism that we are having now. Some of the powers of the IPCMC model they are also found in the EAIC. I don't deny that, such as summoning witnesses, enter and inspect premises, search, etc. But the element of enforcement, if you look at the EAIC Act, is conspicuously missing. And this is the main differentiating feature. That in principle is basically what differentiates between the IPCMC and the EAIC. So, in principle, EAIC could act, prevent or address death in custody as well as the IPCMC. It can address the same thing, but whether it is effective, whether enforcement is one of the elements would be a different thing altogether. Now, making it in retrogressive in EAIC is an inbuilt system of referrals. If you look at the Act, instead of effective enforcement. This is found in Section 27(3) and 4 of the EAIC Act. It's quite a mouthful, so I won't read it to you, and I would advise that you buy a copy and refer it. These are the relevant sections because of the short time that I'm given to talk about it. Actually, I would like to explain a little bit further, but I hope you can bear with me. I will move to another very important point. The lack of enforcement of BITE is further accentuated when we look at Section 30 of the Act, making the EAIC a replication mechanism instead of an enforcing one. And this is very important. And there are these are just a few major drawbacks in principle, if you just give it a kind of an intellectual analysis. In practice, it is even shocking. It was recently revealed there is only one investigating officer in comparison to 19 agencies under his care. The fallacy of the argument that we would grant people the wishes, grant the people's wishes and give you more than what you ask for, need to be understood. What is the point I'm trying to make here? In those days when you fight for the IPCMC, the government of the day says, okay, very good, I hear you out. So fast. Okay, very good. And then the government gives the impression that, why don't you have a mechanism that addresses the entire spectrum of agencies? Why go for the police alone? And it may sound to be very, generous. It may sound to be a very good, a very noble kind of reply. I'm being very kind to you. But if you look at this sort of response again, it is not actually addressing the problem. Because the agencies other than the police at that time were not facing a problem. The only agency at that time facing the problem was the police, that in police custody. And you are telling me that I can give you more than what you want. Now I just want you to consider, if you are happy with your life and things like that, and somebody comes along the way and say, look here, I have a set of rules for you so that in case of anything, you can use this set of rules and address your way of life. That sort of logic would have to be looked at and understood. If I'm happy, then why those rules? We don't have a problem. The only problem then was the police force. So we need actually to attend to the police force. Don't bring in extra burden of 19 agencies, so on and so forth. Now, let me bring you to what are the 19 agencies. You look at the schedule of the EAIC. And later on, let's just do a quick analysis. National Anti-Drugs Agency. How many people are you detaining a day? Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency. Did they say they have a problem? And how many people are you detaining at sea? Pirates? Department of Environment? They don't even have a stats to tell us. They don't seem to have a problem. Immigration Department of Malaysia, compared to the police, relatively less. Royal Customs Department, they are in their own enclave. Department of Occupational Safety and Health, I think that your guess is as good as mine. You see, these are the things that we can look at. National Registration Department, I don't have a problem. Apply IC and all that, save for some change of names and all that mixed up. Civil Aviation Department, how many guys are detained at the airport, this and that. Road Transport Department, you have a problem with accident, report to the police. Industrial Relations Department, you have a labor problem. Fisheries Department, how many guys get entangled and involved? How many guys go fishing, tell me? Department of Wildlife, you're going to meet a tiger or elephant every day. National parks and all that. The Rangers, Labor Department, who's going to sack you? Not many. Ministry of Health, Enforcement Department, Ministry of Tourism, you're going to go after the tourists, or are you going to abuse the tourists? I don't know. Ministry of Domestic Trade and Cooperative and Consumerism, Enforcement Division, I'm not very sure about it. Ministry of Housing and Local Government, you got a problem there, you solve it, but the figures are not very high in terms of detention and custodial sentence and so on. Commercial Vehicles Licensing Board, I don't know. Registrar of Business, you have your own private business, go ahead. You don't hear anything from them. What I'm trying to say basically is, these guys don't have a problem. They can, even if they have a problem, they can sort it out with their own mechanism. Now, what I'm trying to say is, this is not a sneaky disregard of people who put this sort of things in. You are the first organization that is problematic. You are the first guy that we complain again, but you are the last guy that we give or entertain you, Royal Malaysian Police. And this is a kind of, I won't say a sneak disregard. It shows that you lack that strength of conviction in you. Why Royal Malaysian Police? Now, Royal Malaysian Police deals with 26 million Malaysians almost every day on the ground. And the exposure of risk, of temptation, of abusers, their probability is very much higher than all the other departments. And that is why you have to address this problem. Don't come and tell me, okay, I will do something better than you, I'll be nice to you, so on and so forth. The point I'm making is, there's a sclerosis on how the powers that be communicate and dialogue on these issues. And that's why problem never gets solved. The CEO of the EAIC was reported in the Star of 9 June 2012 following an interview, saying that it is wrong to say that the police have not been fair. But can the police be fair? Ladies and gentlemen, I like to believe that the police will be fair. But I cannot do so because the police just cannot be fair. Why? There is a basic rule of justice that is so fundamental, and that is the rule of natural justice. You cannot be your own judge, prosecutor, so on and so forth. When the people complain against are you yourself. You do not breach these basic rules. You cannot hear your own peers. I would like to say that I believe, and I hope that you will be fair, but you just cannot be fair. Why? Because the rules, the law says so. That's what I have to say, and I hope you will consider the expeditiously for the IPCMC to be expeditiously and fully implemented so that we will not see these figures at the back there anymore. It will be a matter of the past in history. With that, I thank you.
EAIC mencipta Aspire P3 Ultrabook yang berkuasa dan ringan dengan menggunakan Intel Inside supaya kita dapat menerokai hidup selain daripada kehidupan harian.
It's my destiny!
The new Acer Aspire P3 Ultrabook, inspired by Intel.